Okay, good evening, everyone. It is 6:30 p.m., so I will call the Tuesday, January 6th meeting of the Superior Common Council to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Counselor Ledeen.
Here.
Counselor Anderson.
Here.
Counselor Moffett.
Here.
Counselor Sweeney. Here. Counselor Fennessy.
Here.
Counselor Elm is absent. Counselor Ludwig. Here. Vice President Herrick.
Here.
Counselor Johnson.
Here.
And President Grasky.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Item 3.1 is a public hearing for a resolution introduced by the Public Works Department authorizing the following alleys be blacktop in 2026. Should I read these?
If the council does not object, if you'd like to divide any of these, we will read them, but these are all posted on the agenda. So what I would look for is unanimous consent to open the public hearing for the resolution concerning the 2026 alleys. Is there objection? Hearing none, the public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak to the 8 alleys listed on the agenda? Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to speak to our 2026 alley blacktopping program? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution.
So moved. Second.
The motion is by Councilor Ledeen, the second by Councilor Moffett. Is there discussion? Councilor Sweeney.
I would just like to go through the criteria for this. I think this is one of the best deal the City of Superior has. So if you could just tell us what the responsibility for the homeowner and what the costs are and how we derived at that. Why? And there's 8 or 7. Is that the number we pick every year?
I describe it as a range, and this is within that range. It has to do with the capacity of the streets department to do it. I excused Director Janigo for the night, so I'll muddle through this, but I feel pretty confident answering your question. The overall terms, Councilor, are the surrounding property owners of any given alley take out a petition, and if 50% or more of those property owners sign that petition, it will trigger a special assessment, which is what we're doing tonight, that will apply to all of the property owners. That will also be divided over 10 years. So they will pay, each property owner will pay their portion of 1/10 of the alley every year for 10 years until their alley is paid off. That will be added to their tax bill. So it is fairly affordable.
Is it the total cost of the paving the alley, labor and material, or?
I'm on a little shakier ground there. It's certainly the cost of the materials, and one of the councilors may be able to answer better than I have if you've asked the question more recently. But I think labor might be. I shouldn't even answer because I guess I just don't know.
It's just material.
We feel confident it's just material.
Yeah. That's a good deal for the homeowner, for the property owner. Great deal. Thank you.
Further questions or discussion? Would anybody else like to speak in the public hearing? I'm sorry. The motion is to close the public hearing and adopt the resolution. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 3.2 is a public hearing introduced by the Community Development Division for a resolution to approve the 2026 to 2030 Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan in the 2026 Action Plan, authorizing staff to submit plans to the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development.
If there's no objection, I will open the public hearing. Would anybody like to speak? The public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? The resolution will soon consider the Community Development Block Grant Consolidated Plan and Action Plan. Would anybody like to speak to those? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution. Second. The motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Ludwig. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 3.3 is a public hearing on the approval of a resolution introduced by the Plan Commission to vacate and discontinue a certain alley referred to in the resolution resolving cause of the resolution.
If there's no objection, I will open this public hearing. The public hearing is now open. Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing for the vacation of this alley? Would anybody like to speak in the public hearing? Would anybody like to speak to the vacation? Hearing none, I will entertain a motion to close the public hearing and approve the resolution.
So moved.
Motion is by Councilor Moffett, second by Councilor Grasky. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
And item 3.3 is a presentation by Fire Chief Volbrecht on the design and cost estimates of the new fire hall.
Welcome, Chief Ulbricht.
Good evening, councilors, mayor. We'll be here tonight. We'll be presenting on our last cost estimate and design for the Fire Station 2 replacement. We are on budget, or close to being on budget. We'll talk about that here in a second. We're on schedule to be able to put this out to bid coming up in February, which will be advantageous for us with that bidding document. So I'm going to turn it over to Max with Kraus Anderson. He's going to go through the estimate, and then we'll have some questions afterwards that we can answer. I'm going to fly it for you.
Yeah, that'd be great. Okay, thanks everyone. Very similar to what we did a couple months ago, just here to present our most recent findings for the design development estimate in this case. Go ahead. Bottom line up front, our stance, our professional opinion remains the same, which is that this project does appear fundamentally viable considering the communicated scope and budget of the project. So good news there. To get into some specific dollar values that we've been putting together for the last few weeks, we have an updated estimate value of $10.47 million. That's about $450,000 above the stated budget. So as Chief alluded to, we're close, but technically slightly over the stated budget. That's a little less than 5%. We'll talk in the upcoming slides kind of what that means and strategies to ensure that we kind of resolve that difference. Just a brief history of the project. Don't want to spend too much time dwelling on the past here, but we've done 3 highly detailed cost estimates for this project. The first one was done about 6 months ago at the concept stage. We were showing about a 7.5% budget misalignment at that phase. About 2 months ago, I was here presenting the schematic design estimate. We were showing about a 3% misalignment at that phase, and then now here today with the numbers I just discussed. So remaining relatively stagnant or flat within those numbers across the scope of the design period. You may be sitting there saying, okay, it's pretty close to what you talked about a couple months ago, but 4.5% is more than 3%, right? So what is the difference? That's probably the question I'd be asking in your shoes. So I wanted to try to pre-answer that for you here. After reviewing every single line item of the estimate, hundreds of different categories of work, we're really able to attribute the net cost increase at this stage to the mechanical systems, which would be the plumbing and HVAC. And that increase is just due to a greater amount of detail that is available at the design development stage. At the last estimate, we're putting together our numbers primarily off narratives, which is the example image you see on the left here. Whereas at this stage, we're actually getting dozens of design drawings and project specification, so we are able to refine those numbers, and so it's just a natural progression, I would say, of the estimate. Okay, just a few critical kind of what's in or what's out of the numbers that I wanted to hit for you today. Most of these are the same that we reviewed at the schematic design phase, but I think it's just a nice refresher so you understand kind of what am I getting for the $10 million we're talking about here. So first bullet point to know is that we do have a project contingency included of nearly $500,000 or 5% intended to cover any unforeseen conditions or scope changes that happen throughout the project. So good risk mitigation for the city there. We have excluded any sales tax and intending to use the city's tax exemption status. We do still have the solar panel allowance included, $200,000 specifically for that scope of work. The numbers do include the fit out of all the furniture, fixtures, equipment, and technology within the building. So you're not just getting an empty shell. All the stuff is in there too, for lack of a better term. The project is intended to include a couple electric vehicle charging stations. The way those are treated budgetarily is that they are purchased and supplied outside the project funding and then installed as part of the project scope. And that's in alignment with what we've been talking about with Chief here since the beginning. Next, geothermal. I believe we discussed that a little bit at the schematic design phase. Over the last couple months, it has been determined that really is infeasible or inefficient anyway for this specific project. So that is excluded at this time. Anything to do with existing fire station number 2, whether it's getting sold, remodeled, demolished, whatever the city ultimately decides for that building, that's completely outside this project. And then just kind of a disclaimer here that these numbers do reflect the project staying on the current schedule, which, as Chief said, is to bid here in about 1 month and start construction this spring. So obviously, if schedule shifts, costs can change as a result. And then last but not least, there are some preliminary project expenses such as design fee, geotechnical investigation, property acquisition, et cetera, that were handled outside of this $10 million. Okay, so kind of to probably the most critical slide here, I would say, we've been showing this slight misalignment throughout the entire estimating process. So how do we know, how do we feel comfortable that we can move forward with the last stages of design and ultimately bidding and not have an over budget scenario during construction? And so these are kind of the 4 items that we've identified as a collective team. Number 1 is utilizing bidding alternates to ensure post-bid flexibility. Really what that means is we're going to bid several different scopes with kind of 2 different pricing options. The best example I can use is the drive entrances leading up to the apparatus bay. We're going to get pricing to do them both in a reinforced concrete, which is kind of the higher quality option, as well as a heavy-duty blacktop or bituminous paving, which matches what you have at the current fire station headquarters, but does cost less. So we're going to do that strategy to several different scopes of work in order to make sure that we can move that final number either up or down depending on where those bids come in at. Moving on to number 2 here, maximizing bidder participation is really critical to ensure that we hit these numbers, and specifically on this project because we are foreseeing a very favorable bidding environment. And really 2 reasons for that. Number 1, bidding in the month of February is always a good time to bid around here. It tends to be the slow part of the construction season, so you get a little bit more bidder participation. People's schedules for the upcoming season are not filled yet. And then maybe more unique to this specific year is that the both local and regional commercial construction markets are slow, and so there are many contractors who are actively looking for work and aggressively pursuing work. And so for that reason, and what we've seen on other recently bid projects, we think it's highly likely that we actually see some prices come in less than our kind of historical normals. And so, we feel that, while not a certainty, once again is a highly likely scenario, and we're going to do our best to realize it just by making sure everybody knows about this project and is in fact submitting a bid. Moving on to number 3, something the design team and fire staff are working on is to confirm some of the large order soft costs or owner direct costs, and those specific examples would be that furniture, fixtures, and equipment, or FF&E amounts, the technology amounts, and then that solar amount I referenced earlier. So just want to make sure we're holding the correct dollar values for those. And then number 4 is just working as a collective to avoid any scope additions during the late stages of design. It's not uncommon to want to add a widget here or there as we get into the last stages, and I think we've kind of got the whole team's head around, that's probably not wise at this stage. We're trying to move the other direction. So that is kind of the 4-part strategy that we have identified. So then just real briefly, refresher on schedule. This is the exact same slide I shared 2 months ago. Construction duration is unchanged at around 12 months of heavy construction. And the way that breaks out is moving into the bidding period in about 1 month. And then we'll get those bids back in late February, work through the contracting phase through late February and March, and then kind of get us ready to start construction as soon as the weather allows, sometime around May 1st. We'll see how things go. And then that add on that construction duration and a little move-in time, and we're projecting an operational facility in June of 2027. Okay, that was my pretty quick summary of what is hundreds of line items in an estimate and like months of work that have gone into that. So happy to answer any questions anybody has. I can go into more detail as necessary.
So, councilors, I know we're getting pretty familiar with this at this point, but we're also getting very close to the RFP date. So questions, probably not our final opportunity for questions, but we're getting there. Councilor Sweeney.
So, Kraus, you're the project manager, is that right term?
That's correct. I'm the project manager for your hired construction management company, yes.
So will Kraus Anderson have somebody on the site on a daily basis?
Yes, we will have a full-time on-site project superintendent overseeing all activities.
So if somebody, I don't know who would do that, but let's say somebody from, I'll just say the city came and said, we're going to put in X, but we want Y, okay? It's going to cost another $10,000. How does it, take me through the approval system?
Yeah, typically if an idea like that comes up, I'll call it an idea, that eventually would get filtered to me as the project manager. If that happened on site in this case, I think as you're referencing, that project superintendent would get that information to me. I would price up that potential change and then present that information to our project team, which would be the designers as well as chief in that case, and kind of let him, I'm not sure what the internal procedure, I guess, at that point is. I'll let maybe chief talk to that.
Okay, but let me ask you a question, follow-up. You're not the final authority on that, then?
No.
Somebody in the city is. That's what I want to know.
Yeah, correct.
Right? Is that right?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah, any scope change that would come through would, if it's a small amount, would probably come through the design team, the mayor. Anything that's significant would come back to you if it's significantly changing that project.
My next question has to do with that. Let's say that the architect, whoever, made a mistake. They left something out, okay? And it was sizable. Let's say it was $100,000. And so take me through that. We discovered it was an error. Somebody left something out, okay? Whether it was a subcontractor or the major bidder or the architect, and it's going to cost somebody another $100,000, $500,000. Let's go $500,000. Take me through the responsibility for that.
So if an item like that was identified, typically the subcontractors on the project would then submit a claim for those costs, and that would come directly to Kraus Anderson or myself as kind of the first reviewer. And so I would look at whether that item was a requirement of the contract documents or the design documents. If it was, it's going to be it's the contractor's responsibility then to foot that bill. If it was not a reasonable expectation of the contract documents, then that's when I would assemble that change and submit it over to the design team as typically the next reviewer. And then they would give their thumbs up or thumbs down and then pass that on, like we said, to your last question, on to the fire chief, and he could kind of go through that same process and,
Let's
and
assume
forward
the
it on
city
as
had
needed.
no response, the city wasn't responsible at all, okay? We're the innocent victim, call them victim, but we're innocent here. Because we assumed that what we were getting, but it was $500,000. A subcontractor, contractor, architect, whatever, okay? Somebody's to blame for that, or takes fault. Are you saying you would come and you go through your chain of command, and then the city would have to either approve it or not?
That's correct, yes. You do have that project contingency I alluded to that sometimes is used for similar situations to that. I, in my position, can't speak to how the city, I guess, would want to handle something that wasn't required in the contract documents, and so a subcontractor would have a legitimate extra for it wouldn't be my decision, I guess, at that point, how it would get funded.
Okay. My scenario is the city is 100% innocent in this, okay? But somebody's going to come to the city eventually and say, will you pay us another $500,000 to do X, right?
Yes, if it was not a requirement of the documents, then that request could potentially be made, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Councilor Ledeen.
A couple of questions here regarding the bidding process, and I don't know where you are in this, but it's public knowledge how much we want to spend on this. We're going to put a bid out and say what exactly. Keep it under 10, or are they going to come back and with all range of prices on this, even though knowing full well we've only set 10 aside for this?
So Kraus Anderson will, as your construction manager, one of our roles is to break the project out into work scope specific chunks. And so we'll actually have, I don't know, let's say 30 or so different work scopes, as we call them. And so you'll get 30 or so different contractors working on the project. And so you're going to just be looking at the sum of all these different numbers. And those are all from different organizations, so they're not aware of what other people are bidding. So the project budget really wouldn't be of interest or pertinent to the individual bidders.
Because this is not being bid out as a whole project.
Correct.
Who's building the whole fire hall? And then this is who's building this, who's building
That's
that.
exactly right. Yep.
Okay.
People will be submitting a bid for, let's say, $500,000
Right.
is a more reasonable amount. And so, the total project budget won't impact their bidding in any way.
So from a process then, Mayor, who is going, are we approving each one of these 30 budgets that will come?
I think we have to approve all of those.
No,
Yeah.
the council will.
Yes.
They'll go through committee, come to council, or straight to council?
Depending on the contractor, I think we're going to want to get them through committee. That's why timeliness will matter.
Okay.
With luck, it's procedural, but and you're just awarding contracts to the low bidder. But there's some evaluation that needs to happen.
Gotcha. Are we looking at, is finance dealing with these, or is this coming to Public Works?
I think that's something that the chair should sort out. It conceivably, public safety,
Or
public
public
works,
safety.
or finance could review it. I'm used to sending contracts of this size to Public Works, but that's usually because they're Public Works contracts.
Right.
These buildings are fairly rare, so I think that's a council decision. I think the chairs should get together and discuss that.
Okay. And then, just out of sheer curiosity, we have an estimate of 10.4. We have 10 budgeted. It comes in exactly as you say. Where's $470,000 coming from?
We would bond for that amount.
We'd bond again?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions? Thank you both.
Item 4.1 is the approval of the December 16th, 2025 regular council meeting minutes.
Motion is by Councilor Herrick, second by Councilor Ledeen. Is there discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
And item 6.1 is report from Mayor Payne.
Hey, good evening again, councilors. Just a couple of things. We have some potential travel coming up. First, what should be no surprise, Superior Days. I asked Becky to prepare travel forms for pretty much all of you. So if anybody would like to go to Superior Days, we have the forms ready. Please stop up here if you're even thinking about it. You don't have to go, but we'd like to get that paperwork filed. Because we only see you every so often, it's easy to fall behind on that. And I'm very committed to having 2026 be the year that travel is just perfect. And it's not going to be, but I'd like the council to be perfect at least. So if you are thinking about going to Superior Days, come up and talk to us after the meeting. The other, and I wasn't sure I would say this, but a few of us are considering going to the National League of Cities. Many of you have attended the Wisconsin League of Municipalities. Because we are members of that organization, we're members of the National League as well. I've only been once. There are two conferences. I'm referring to the Congressional Conference in March in Washington, D.C. Like I said, I've only been once, but I found it very valuable because, well, the Wisconsin League of Municipalities talks about issues that Wisconsin cities have in common. We have things in common with other cities around the country that we don't have in common with other Wisconsin cities. Think of our, especially when I was there last year, rail issues were very significant, and our counterparts in Wisconsin just don't know a lot about that the way we do. And so it was very valuable. There was a lot to learn. It's Washington, D.C. in March. I can't remember. Sometimes it's very expensive. Sometimes it's shockingly affordable. So we're evaluating that. If you have an interest, let me know, because there is some savings if we take a group. Obviously, it's going to be more expensive either way, but I think there is some benefit for you to go. So it's a conversation we're having, but it's coming up fast. So if you think that'd be valuable, let me know. And then lastly, probably more interesting, you see you got my memo that I have vetoed the ordinance for the lead lines mandate, well, many things related to lead lines. I promise, I wish I'd have put in the ordinance, this is a very dramatic way of doing something very boring, so I apologize for that. If I'd have been paying just a little bit more attention in our last council meeting, I could have caught this then and sent it back. I have, as I mentioned in the memo, I have a number of questions about it, but the amendments we made in that meeting proved to be incomplete. And to be honest, I had some questions about them anyway, so I'm merely asking for a motion to refer. I'll say to you what I've said to the press that have asked me about this. I intend to support this ordinance. I called the chair of the committee and the author. I hope to be supporting this ordinance, signing it within a month, 2 at the most. This is not urgent. We shouldn't really need the tools provided in here until the summer. So I'm just hoping for, first, your forbearance for not catching this a little bit sooner, and a motion to refer if you're willing. So moved. Second. There's a motion by Councilor Moffitt, a second by Councilor Sweeney to refer. That would be to the Public Works Committee. Councilor Johnson.
Thanks. Can you give me an example of what some of your questions are specifically?
No. I thought about writing those down, but I want to be careful because many of them I can answer behind the scenes. And to be perfectly honest with you, I haven't formed them all yet. I've started working on this really today, and that was a big part of the reason for the veto. I was staring down a 5-day clock where this was going to be published at cost to the city, and as many of you know, I was traveling, and then we were in the holidays, so this is when I've started working on it. I could offer a few of my speculative questions, but most of them relate to the impact of the ordinance on homeowners, particularly those that are outside of census tracts where we're currently working. And it would be tough for me to even frame that an intelligent question right now, but my main concern is I want to make sure that we're not leaving anybody out or imposing costs when somebody would have the opportunity to have a lead line replaced for free.
Outside of the work that we're currently doing? So like if I wasn't in the current work area and wanted to do it myself, you're saying there could be a cost to me?
Well, I hope not. It's a question that I have that I have not had time to answer. That's why I just wanted to talk about it in committee a little longer.
Fair enough. Do you know, this is kind of a little bit off topic, but kind of maybe to the point here. Do you know when the return on the feasibility study for the valuation of the utility will be returned?
Yes. That, we got an update.
Mr. Mayor,
What's that?
careful.
Yeah, the reason I'm hesitating is because I did get an update right before we left. Spring or summer. It's a couple months. It's on its way. In fact, I owe them a phone call today that I missed.
Okay. I was referring to the word that you might have almost said, but okay. All right. Would this delay in this have any impact on the valuation at all in the delay of this ordinance?
No. That was the first question I asked. Again, our options in front of us. There's one change right away that we should just make, a simple amendment we should make similar to the amendments that Director Janigo offered. We could have just done that after the fact. It just would have cost money. And so this is the free way to do that. So I asked, does holding it up impact our use of it? No, we don't need it till the summer.
Okay. And then, so you expect it to be within the next month?
I think so. I mean, if we get bogged up in the Public Works Committee, maybe another month. But I just offered a quote that the snow will be on the ground. I hope the snow is on the ground when I'm signing this. That is my goal. But yeah, Public Works schedule, first meeting in February.
Okay, thank you. And is there a reason we can't just approve this and then bring the amendments later?
Right, because it will cost money.
What money or how much money, and what can you be more specific on it would be costing money?
It's
time.
well, yeah, it's publishing the ordinance, so it costs several $100s to publish the ordinance. Yeah, so $350. So then when you change it, you pay that again. Doesn't sound like a huge amount of money, but it's quite a bit more than free. Sure. There's also, if we find while we're working on it, if we find other things that concern us or that we want to change, we will have created a law that's then in effect. So it's, again, with no consequence to holding it up, thought let's just talk about it a month, make sure we have it right.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion? Councilor Ledeen.
Just one real quick one here. If this is coming back to Public Works, Mayor, are we going to have city attorney look at this? Are we having outside counsel take a look at this from a legal standpoint on what changes we want made, making sure they're correct?
Definitely. If there's substantial changes, if we see things that we would like to make major significant changes to, of course, that should get legal review, and they'd possibly attend the committee. Okay. I will definitely be at that committee meeting. I should have been at the previous one, so that's why I'm at least a little embarrassed about this. But I hope there's not major changes to it. I hope it's mostly just clearing up the language so that everybody is assured that it does what we want it to do. Like I said, you all did great work on this. I assume that it's doing what we want it to do. I want everybody that reads it to be confident that it does what we want it to do. So we can absolutely consult legal.
Gotcha.
Further questions? Councilor Fennessy.
Can you explain the cost? That's the first time I've ever heard of a cost for an ordinance. So every time we change an ordinance, every time we create an ordinance, it's $350. To who?
We are required to publish all ordinances in the City Telegram, and it's part of enacting them. And based on how long of an ordinance it is, you're charged like by the inch. So a little ordinance, $30. A long ordinance, I took a look at this one, it was $350. So it depends on how big those ads are. We also publish all of our city minutes. That probably costs about $200 a month.
And this would be the $350 in addition to the regular, because I know statutorily we're just required to publish the minutes and all that, and there's just no way around that. But it would be an additional $350 to publish this ordinance because it's so lengthy.
I think, depending on if you made more than one change to it, we would republish the whole thing again. So. If you publish it more than one time.
But we're not talking about changing the language of the actual ordinance name or anything like that.
Generally, we publish the entire section of the city code when changes are made.
Okay.
it's a long code and we just change one subparagraph, we will just publish that one subparagraph. So depending on the kinds of changes, we are able to just publish smaller sections of city code. So it just depends on the ordinance change.
Okay. I guess I didn't realize it was that kind of cost. This just feels aggressive. The veto. If all we're looking to do is get additional discussion and further refinement, it just feels aggressive to have to veto it when we can do exactly what you are asking us to do right now and just a motion to refer. And so because we're talking two different things, the veto and then the motion to refer. So what you're asking is the veto stay, but at the same time we can then make a motion to refer to the Public Works Committee. Is that?
No, the question in front of us is a motion to refer, which is sustaining the veto. But even that doesn't have much impact, because if it refers to committee, passes out of committee, at any time you can just repass the ordinance. 6 votes passed it initially. If I vetoed it over and over, 7 votes just adopts it. So it doesn't change the process or the requirements to pass it in any way. I agree it feels aggressive, much more so because the clerk bought me a giant red stamp that says veto on it. So, but it's better to think of it, if I had come up with, recognized what was happening, and again, I am embarrassed about it, but please remember how that meeting was going. We were about to take the vote. Director Janigo interrupted the meeting to offer some changes, which we adopted unanimously, and then adopted the ordinance immediately afterwards. Then we were very quickly talking about the ERP, and we were very focused on that. If in that meeting I've been like, wait a minute, I have a question about this. In fact, as I'm reading this, I have a few questions. Would you all mind referring this back for a meeting? That would have been far less dramatic. I think most of us have requested that at some point. Because we didn't do that, and we got out of the meeting, and now we're staring down Christmas, I'm staring down a 5-day statutory deadline, this was the only option available. Totally agree it looks dramatic. But to save those costs, to have the conversation, this was the tool. But it very much is nothing more than a motion to refer.
Okay, so what just to clarify, what you're asking is that the same exact motion as it passed go back to Public Works, because a veto basically stops it in its tracks. But what you're asking is that same exact as it was passed, just go back to Public Works.
Yes.
For more refinement, more conversation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, Councilor Herrick.
Yeah, just one question. Would that come under then, if it passes through Public Works, will it come back under a different ordinance number then, I'm assuming? Or would it be the same ordinance number?
Same ordinance number, right?
I don't think we could do it either way.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering.
It's an interesting question.
Okay.
We'll know in a minute.
All right.
I'd have to look at that.
The question I asked is, when it comes back to the council, will it require 6 or 7 votes to pass? First, I hope it's going to pass with the same unanimous vote it passed last time, and then I will be signing it. But my belief is 6. I believe a majority passes it after it comes back from Public Works.
All right, thanks.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of the motion to refer to the Public Works Committee, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 7.1 is the business of the Human Resources Committee with a meeting held on December 15th. Is there a report from the chair?
Yes, thank you. There are 2 items that the clerk must read and we must approve tonight. One is for the Marketing and Tourism Director, and the other one for reassigning in the Public Works, the building inspector to the assistant building inspector. So that'll be coming. The clerk will read that. Other things are going on. We, as of December 15th, we met in closed session to discuss the police contract. To my knowledge, that it's still going on, so we're still working on that. We've updated a number of job descriptions last month, and also we had an update from the library board. We just got some information from them, which you received and filed. And so I will pass this to the clerk to read the 2 items are on the docket. Thank you.
The first is a request to approve and fill the Marketing and Tourism Coordinator position.
The motion is by Councilor Grassley, second by Councilor Anderson. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Second is to approve a reclassification of Patrick Road from Commercial Building Inspector to Assistant Chief Building Inspector.
Motion is by Councilor Moffett, the second by Councilor Sweeney. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries.
Item 7.5 is the business of the Public Safety Committee with a meeting held on December 18th. Is there a report from the chair?
The chair's absent, but in his place, I will give a quick update. The police department's closing in on full staffing now, which is fantastic. They expect some new hires early this year, and accounting for some planned retirements and looking at some recruitment. The squad room is getting a much-needed update, which I know the folks in the police department are very excited about. We've seen less lethal tools, hearing protection enhancement, and our rollout of new investigative technology. The November activity remained high. The department will give the PSC an update on the officer-involved shooting once that independent state investigation is completed. Fire department reports stable call volume, significant progress on the grant-funded advancement of the EMT training program, which we look forward to allow for a higher level of medical care throughout our city. That training begins in February with a licensing targeted, all of our staff licensed by 2027, and it is also being coordinated with a lot of our regional partners. Finally, the committee approved the 3-year extension for the city's towing contract with Duke's Towing at no increase in rates. And that is my report, and I'll leave it to the clerk to read the recommendation.
That is to approve a 3-year extension of services contracts for towing, storage, and disposal of abandoned, unregistered, and junked vehicles to Duke's Towing Incorporated.
The motion is by Councilor Johnson, second by Councilor Fennessy. Is there discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. Motion carries.
Item 8.2 is reports without recommendations. At this time, are there any further committee or commission reports to be made?
Do we miss Plan Commission? Well, I have a Plan Commission report. The last meeting of the Plan Commission was a special meeting to work on zoning. I know you hear about zoning every single time, but I'm telling you, council is really heating up now, and it was a really great conversation. The reason I bring this up every time, writing a zoning code is incredibly controversial in many communities, and it can really split communities apart. And I have to say, I'm very impressed with the Plan Commission and the work that they've been doing. I'm not saying everybody's agreeing. In fact, we have pretty significant debates, but we are definitely building this together, and we're dealing with some pretty hard questions about affordability of housing and the character of neighborhoods. And we're only on the residential code. We have commercial and industrial still ahead. Again, keep an eye on those meetings. Please feel free to attend. We would love for you to join in those conversations. Maybe not all 10 of you, but come pay us a visit. It's going very well. We have no business, though. Any other committee or commission reports? Okay, we can move on to new business.
Item 10.1 is the confirmation of Jess McCullough to Historic Properties Museum Director's position.
The motion is by Councilor Fennessy, second by Councilor Moffett. Councilors, in keeping with our tradition for especially significant positions, Dr. McCullough is here. You mind waving briefly? I will not ask him to address the council. From the memo, you see I'm pretty enthusiastically recommending his confirmation tonight. He is extremely well qualified. I know many of you will accuse me of hiring my best friend, but I assure you I did not. I'm meeting him tonight with the rest of you. I want to thank the committee for their outstanding job. This is a very competitive field, and I'm very impressed with the candidate that we achieved. Are there questions that I can answer? If not, all those in favor of confirming Dr. McCullough as the Historic Properties Museum Director, please signify by saying aye. Those opposed say no. The motion carries. Do we have any? Nobody signed up to speak in public comment. Do we have any further business? Hearing none, we are adjourned. Thank you, councilors. And feel free to introduce yourselves to